Are you ready for the truth? Bring it on.
In this present crisis, government is not the solution to our problem. Government is the problem.
Do you want the whole truth?
I don't think you're ready.
Governments don't control things. A government can't control the economy without controlling people.
It's Crane Durham's Nothing But Truth.
Welcome back, Crane Durham's Nothing But Truth, AFR Talk. Now, it's going to get up to 39 tomorrow in Dallas. That's it? Wow. Might have to give Barbie Bassett a call for tomorrow's program. Crane Durham's Nothing But Truth proudly on. Say it with me now. AFR Talk. You just came off American Family News, bringing you up to speed on the top stories of the day. The passing of Nelson Mandela, obviously a sad day, and we will discuss his legacy and tomorrow on the program. Very interesting on the developments of what has happened in South Africa since. Thank you, Captain Obvious. Yes, very interesting, isn't it? Yes, of course. It's very interesting. It's just interesting in the entire conversation regarding what great things this man did and stood for, but also the legacy of what his legacy will be turned to and how it will be used. We'll talk about that tomorrow. Right now, I want to talk about healthcare. Boring. No, see, you don't need to say that. Crane, we talk about healthcare all the time. Yes, I realize that, but there's some interesting developments. They're trying to sell Obamacare. Really? Again, Captain Obvious is in the showroom here and has said, look, if you keep bringing me back on, I'm not going to be able to really ever leave. When you say they're trying to sell it, what do you mean? Well, what I mean is they're throwing in the promise of what Obamacare will deliver. The promise is always over the horizon. Remember that, too. It's just like the stimulus. Remember that? It's coming. Recovery summer's coming. Remember that? Sure. Not really. Oh, yeah, we're about to. It just hasn't happened yet. Give it time. We're planting the seeds. And it's always just over. And keep promising. Interesting, because what we've seen with Obamacare is, I think, a quickening, if you will. And I don't think they anticipated this, certainly, how quick things would start to devolve and deconstruct. So they're dealing with that. I would say liberalism is a promise, and one that is made always with the idea of tomorrow in mind, of delivering on that promise despite what has happened that day in the present and the past weeks, months, years, decades, centuries. So when you look at the record, so the promise is nothing really new. And the promises are getting pretty wacky. Michael Eric Dyson, doctor, professor on MSNBC, talked about one of the promises on Martin Bashir's last program on MSNBC, the Martin Bashir who resigned. Did MSNBC apologize? I do not believe so. No, they haven't. Stay classy. So here he is talking about Obamacare and how things will work out despite the website faltering. Roll it.
So what Obama's anticipating is that I'm going to put this out there now because, you look, a year from now, people are not even going to remember the rollout stuff.
Right,
it's going to be like, thank God I went to the doctor and it wasn't the emergency ward. Right. And guess what? Now I've got my diabetes under control. I've got my chemotherapy here. I've got my Viagra. There will be millions of men who will rise to the occasion and say, we are grateful for what has been done.
Boo. Joy Behar, I believe, was in the hizzy there in the sense of the house. Did you just say hizzy house? Yeah, and hosting, if I'm not mistaken. So it was Martin Bashir's show, though. And bottom line, the promise, and a bit absurd and attempting to be humorous, people will be benefiting. Just wait. People will be benefiting. This will work. Remember, this is a theme. And President Obama, not to be outdone by the doctor, chimed in with his support about informing people about Obamacare and started rallying bartenders. I kid you not. Roll it.
If you work at a nonprofit, open your doors and use your email list to help people learn the facts. If you've got a radio show, spread the word on air. If you're a bartender, have a happy hour. And also probably get health insurance, because a lot of bartenders don't have it.
I got nothing against bartenders. But he's saying, in essence, that here's the general message. I'm using something silly, but I'm trying to make a general point here. And the macro would be that, hey, tell people the truth about Obamacare, because the story is not getting out there about what will happen and how people will benefit. Now, think back to the comment that Romney made about the 48%, 43%, whatever it may be, versus 52%, and the promise of government and the subsidies that people will receive. Now, however inartful the comment was, even as I paraphrase it in a very clumsy way, you recognize that they're saying, hey, this will be good for you because you're going to get freebies. It's going to help you because we're going to allow you to pay less for what you would have paid much more for. And that is simply not true. And that's what people are figuring out. We are also figuring out that the promises that have been made have been consistently broken under this administration. So when the president says, go out and inform people about it, people are being informed. Unfortunately for the president and those supporting Obamacare, and not just on the website, I'm speaking generally, supportive of the law, are sounding more and more out of touch and ridiculous. We have now Harry Reid taking a break from not only being the majority leader in the Senate majority leader, but also his motivational speaking tour in business. This guy will get you fired up big time. He was speaking to a local news affiliate in the great state of Nevada and asked about Obamacare and what the support and the political impact it would have on next year's elections. Here is Harry Reid. Roll it.
I think it's going to be good for them. By that time, there will be a lot of people on that have already signed up. It'll be fine.
You don't worry that this could cost you essentially your majority in the U.S. Senate, because you've got some Senate Democrats in tough races.
Well, I'm kind of used to that. We have 21 Democratic senators that are up, and we're watching 2 or 3 of them closely. But to take over the majority, they'd need 6 seats. I don't think there are many people say that's going to happen.
So you're pretty confident that you're going to remain majority leader at this point?
I'm not cocky, but I am comfortable where we are. I think we're in pretty good shape, and the politics has ebbs and flows. And this has been not fun the last month or so, but it's getting better even the last few days.
It's getting better with 29,000 people signing up. When Mark Thiessen wrote about this the other day in the Washington Post about if you look at that number and look at what they need to stop the death spiral when it comes to people signing up on the individual mandate, you see that it is nothing worth celebrating, but the media will obviously do anything it can to celebrate it because the media is biased, Crane, because they sit in a basement and they plan on how to coordinate these events. No, it's not a conspiracy, though journalist scandal certainly was a conspiracy. That said, it's an ideology, and it's in the arena of ideas that we have seen being played out with a false narrative that is used to attack conservatives and people that believe the state is not the answer. In fact, oftentimes the state is the problem because they exacerbate the very problem they're trying to solve. by not recognizing human nature. So you have this idea of, oh yeah, we'll be able to sell this. Now, the selling point is the website will supposedly get better. Okay, it's still struggling. It may get a little better, but not the website. The website is just the tip of the iceberg. They're going to try to make it about that because wouldn't you? If you knew structurally this thing it doesn't work, that 100 million people are projected to lose their health insurance, that they knew that people would be losing their health insurance and not able to keep their plan, that they've manipulated the law by selective enforcement, going into a question of the presidential authority. Ted Cruz spoke to that. I'll get to him in just a moment. But from townhall.com, the tip sheet, Guy Benson does a great job over there, as well as a host of others, and applaud them, just like Newsbusters and a whole host of others that do great work. They do great work at American Family News. Don't ever forget that. So they were talking about what Megyn Kelly discussed last night on her program on Fox. She talked about people who thought they were insured, but in fact, because of the error rates, because of a glitch, if you will, in the system, and the way the system was constructed, people may not realize they may make a payment, think they're insured, and their plan and their participation and enrollment into their insurance plan has been somehow negated because they didn't make the particular payment that they should. And this exists because there's an error rate on registering people for the insurance plan. So there's an error rate. They don't want to speak to how many errors there are, and it has to do with the operation in the back end of the system of Obamacare and the website. Bob Lazowiski, say it 5 times fast, is an expert on insurance companies and speaks with insurers on a daily basis, quote unquote, from the article. And he talked about what he explains that the so-called 834 transaction error rates haven't improved at all since healthcare.gov's checkered November 30th relaunch, Guy Benson writes. And then he says this, and this is what he said to Megyn Kelly last night. Understand, people think they're insured. They make a payment, but they don't realize either they haven't been actually registered, there's an error rate within the system, or the payment's not enough. And so, in essence, their policy will be canceled because they never fully registered or they didn't make the proper payment. Here is Bob Lazowiski speaking to this last night on Megyn Kelly's program. Roll it.
And Megyn, you know, much has been made about how the administration has fixed the website. Politics again. They fixed the front end of the website because it was a political embarrassment to them. The back end of the website is a disaster. They can't pay the insurance companies. They haven't built the system to transfer the federal subsidy money to the insurance companies yet. They can't do a reconciliation via the computer because they haven't built the reconciliation system to figure out if the people that the government thinks are covered on the insurance company's site. The news has been circulating in the insurance industry the last day or two that what the government wants to do now is to send the insurance companies in hard copy the lists of the people that they think are covered so the company can compare in hard copy to who they have. Megyn, some of these insurance companies are going to have 30, 40, 50,000 people insured, and they're going to have like 2 stacks of paper, and they're going to be expected to do a manual reconciliation. I mean, this is just, they have not built the back end of this website. This is like going into a bank business, opening up a bank, taking people's money, opening checking accounts, but you can't send a statement at the end of the month because, well, you haven't built that part of it yet. We don't need to send you a statement.
And he concludes the overall statement on the program with this statement: enrollments that came through on Monday have just as high an error rate as enrollments did 3 weeks ago. So the subsidies aren't getting there. They have to cross-reference the lists and reconcile them. And they haven't corrected it because they didn't build the system. They built it on the front end. This is dealing with the website. This is the promise that everything will be better tomorrow. Everything will work. We'll take care of it. When we're going through government, we see that this is not a structure designed to achieve the goals that they have outlined, and it's why you don't try to take over 1/6 of the economy. Even with the power of the president, that the president is going beyond in the sense of the Article 2 powers that he has, he's going beyond those, but he still can't do anything to really save this law because it is so flawed. Yet it is deeply concerning of how far the president has gone outside his particular powers. And Ted Cruz, the senator, Ted Cruz, spoke to this. We'll get to that in a second. But remember, when people speak up about what really is going on, about the promise that will not be realized and has not been realized, and the way they keep moving ahead and maintaining their power is the idea that they're criticizing policies that do work because those policies won't achieve the perfection they promise. A heaven on earth. And that's what we're looking at. I'm speaking generally here, but you get the idea. It is what socialism is the promise of. And in essence, what we've come to know is the utopian vision. That utopian vision pushes out God. And when we've seen this in the past, the butcher's bill is quite high. And it goes down to a place in history that many would like to forget, China, or Russia, or the Soviet Union as we knew it. So, understanding those, again, I'm just speaking in the meta point, if you will, not the macro point. The meta point is this is an ideology to sell the bill of goods. They have to keep promising that things will get better. It will always get better. Tell me about this. Has the economy gotten better in the sense of we look at past recoveries versus this one? It's extraordinary, the numbers. Extraordinary. How past recoveries dwarf this recovery. Because what they see is it's not working. We are staying pretty much in the same place. And then even when we do have good numbers, we look at the manipulation of the data and in greater context, be it part-time workers when it comes to unemployment and the seasonal adjustments and the seasonal understanding of that, as well as people who have given up looking for work, leaving the workforce altogether. We see that growing. And so you look at the unemployment number and it could come down, but there is always the rest of the story. Now, Dan Celia is doing great work as he does when he breaks down these numbers, and it's another reason you got to listen to AFR. It's the place to be. Not only listen to Nothing But Truth. I love that. That's great. Get to the Facebook page. Let's have some fun and talk about things and mix things up. Great. Your show continue, but check out and lock it in. This is a resource, and you need this resource because, remember, if you understand where they're coming from and recognize they haven't changed, they're giving the same speeches on substance that they did in 2009 and of the promise of what their programs would do. And then you see what has been promised and what has been delivered. Ouch, it's not good. But if you have the audacity to speak up against it, and you're not using their particular lexicon to do it, and you're not referencing their particular studies or points, you don't seem to be speaking in the manner that they speak to things. In essence, what you say is something that directly contradicts what they promise, but you are speaking to their record. What happens? Character assassination. And the more popular you are, the more of a threat, the more you're able to expose and communicate on a level that they cannot communicate you will be vilified and attacked. We saw this with Martin Bashir and MSNBC in general, and I would say the left in general when it comes to Sarah Palin. Sarah Palin responded to Martin Bashir's resignation on yesterday's Fox and Friends. Here is the governor, former, of Alaska. Roll it.
My role is to accept his apology and be humble enough to, accept it and move on. But I just hope that unprovoked attacks like that don't result in people being hesitant to jump in the arena anyway, to get out there and serve the public or, start a business or really commit themselves to changing within their family, their community, their world, doing whatever that they can, despite the fact that in this world you are going to be hurt and attacks will come your way. I just hope that an attack like that doesn't make people hesitate. Well, at this point I'm used to it. That's kind of a sad state of affairs too, to have to admit that I am used to it. After 5 years of this kind of stuff, some of that kind of gets knocked out of you a little bit. So 6 years ago, I probably would have been personally hurt by such an attack. Now, no, I look at it as it's kind of par for the course. And just, again, hoping that that doesn't make those who have not yet been under attack like that hesitate to get out there anyway and try to change the world.
That, of course, great advice on what happens and very candid, as well as what her role is in being above that and moving forward and forgiving, as we all are to forgive. Tell me, do you think that stopped anything on MSNBC distorting Sarah Palin and what she stood for and stands for? Well, Tingles Matthews and his guest from the Huffington Post might have something to say about that. Roll it.
But some of these criticisms reach well beyond logic. Let's go back to Sarah Palin. This whole notion that death panels are in there. The first death panels that she referred to was a requirement that Medicare provide end-of-life consultations to patients. That was deliberately stripped from the legislation because of the uproar that she caused. It's clearly not in there now, but years later she's acting as if it is. So there's a bit of lunacy to some of these criticisms, or it's just not, based in fact at all. And that's what clouds this debate, is that you don't know what are legitimate gripes and you don't know what are pure fabrications.
Yeah, but don't you think part of the appeal, Sam, this is a bit psychobabble, but don't you think part of the appeal of Sarah Palin is she doesn't give her what facts are? And I think that is her wild attraction. She's almost squirrely that way in the sense that...
Cut the clip. Understand, Sarah Palin speaking truth on death panels with the iPad and understanding things, that's a threat. Remember that. You'll be vilified more. They want to pick the people that they run against, as any opponent would. It's very interesting. AFR Talk, live with honor in your life, compassion in your heart, always keep the faith in Jesus Christ.